Hi, this is Adrian Paul, and you're listening to Chris Gordon, Ramblings of a Hellblazer, because of course there can be only one.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. I am delighted to have the pleasure today of the company of Adrian Paul from Highlander and currently the Sword Experience. So good morning, Adrian.
Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're living in, I suppose.
Well, good evening.
Yeah. It kind of makes it's difficult when you got business going on. You've got New York, and then you got London and Europe. So if you're today, everything's kind of like smaller, so it makes things a little harder, but you just have to juggle time zones, and then you'll figure out where you're at.
Oh, yeah, I found that doing these, it's trying to figure out LA, New York, Europe, New Zealand.
Right.
It can be
Yeah.
quite
Yeah. Challenging.
challenging. Yeah, that's a good word for it. But at least I'm not actually flying like you do when you fly into these places. Cool. So yeah, as you know, I've got some questions for you. I've got some general ones. I've had some people send me some questions for you as well. And obviously we're going to hear to talk about your current project, which you are in the middle of, which is the Sword Experience 2.
Yeah.
So we shall kick off with, how old were you when you realised you wanted to become an actor?
Oh gosh. Well, I was 13 in school plays, but at that point I was playing football and chasing girls. About 15. So I had much more interesting things I wanted to do in my life. To be honest, it was in my later teens that I started getting into sort of the arts, if you wish. And I got on stage. I did some small things here and there, but in reality, it was really only when I got to the States that I really found a passion for it, because I guess my mindset changed, as you do. Your brain changes to some other venue. I mean, football was out for me at that time because I hated the politics of it. So I moved on, and at the time they weren't being paid, $10 million a year. It didn't seem like quite the thing to do at the time.
Okay, fair enough. What kind of inspired you, or who inspired you to go into acting?
The funny thing was, I used to do choreograph stuff where I do mime and playback and stuff like that. And people said to me, "You're so good on stage, why don't you act?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been wanting to do that. But yeah, yeah, it's a good idea." So I started studying in England and privately, basically. I didn't go to RADA or anything of that nature. And then I was taken to New York because I started working in New York, and then I lost all my money in New York because it was so expensive at the time. And I went back to the States. And when I was in the States, I started taking classes in the States. And I found this one teacher who's passed on now, Roy London, who was, I mean, he's did so many stars that today, Brad Pitt, um, got so many people that came through his classes. And I remember the moment actually that I got inspired by it, watching a scene in his class, that I just realized this is what I should do. It was just one of those moments, and I actually can see it now. The two people doing the scene in this small little, let's say, repertory, not even a theatre. It was just a small classroom situation, and I just felt exactly what he was talking about. I knew what these people were doing, and I said, this really excites me, and it stuck me in my stomach, and I said, this is what I should be doing.
Awesome. Sounds great. It's always good to have that kind of inspiration and sort of motivation to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a kid, sometimes you don't know. I mean, you're not guided towards doing certain things unless you find something that triggers you. And I guess my trigger came a little later in life, but I think those moments really touch some people. Some people follow them from a really young age. They really know when they're 10 years old, that's exactly what they're going to be doing. I was all over the place. I was playing soccer. I wanted to be, a sportsman. I wanted to do travel. I wanted to, and I just didn't know. And I studied, I got good grades, and I worked in a bank when I first left school, and worked as a custom pricing assistant in a pharmaceutical company, and worked as a waiter. And, I did all those
Yeah.
things that just kept me going. But I just was trying to find what my passion was.
No, that's really cool. That's really nice to sort of hear. I mean, I've got to say as well, from my point of view, I'm age 40 and I'd started out doing acting in school, loved it. Then I gave it up. I've been in IT for 17 years and now I'm starting to get back into it because I think,
Right.
it doesn't matter what age you are. I think you can sort of follow your passions and follow your dreams. It just sometimes takes people a bit longer.
The funny thing is, and I tell people this a lot of the time, I say, your dreams never come true. They're like, what do you mean? I said, well, they never come true how you quite envision them when
Hmm.
you were a kid, because if you want to become a fireman, an accountant, an actor, whatever that is, you've got an idea of what that is. But as you go through your life, things happen and you get choices you've got to make to go to the left or go to the right. That's really simple. And you decide. And so you are who you are through the choices that you made. And you may get to that dream that you had, but it'll be entirely different because you've had different types of choices to make along the way.
Well, exactly. I mean, who'd have thought that, for example, might be now sitting talking to Duncan MacLeod all those years ago in school. I would never have dreamed, 20 years on, and here I am, face to face with you, sort of. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Dreams, as you sort of go through, your dreams do alter the way you perceive them. So it's how you are, who you are, and it's your experiences that bring you to those.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about the sword experience? This is your current project that you are touring with.
Yeah, I've got my film company and that's part of my business, and of course I'm still acting, and but I kind of I have my radio show every week. I have my charity, and it kind of happened by accident in a sense that a lot of people had asked me over the years to do sword videos and do sword demonstrations, etc. And I was never really, I didn't think I had the time to do something of that nature, or that it was the right time to do it. And it just so happened last year that the opportunity came up, and I started doing a couple of these experiences whereby teaching people some of the sword choreography from Highlander. And I thought, well, actually, with the advent of Game of Thrones, and as you mentioned before, Spartacus, and To the Badlands, Star Wars, and all that, they're all very similar, but you don't see is what it's like in the movies, and what's the difference between the movie fighting and real fighting. I thought, wouldn't it be cool to actually take a space where you put people into an atmosphere that is much like a film set, and you teach them choreography, and then you teach them the difference between what would happen in reality and what would happen on a film set, how your angles are when you're doing a film or stage work, how you pull the punch, a lot of technique stuff, and give them an experience where they're in a really cool spot doing it. So there's a lot of other things to do rather than just go and do this thing. But so it's the experiences I have at the cons are about 2.5 hours, but the ones I travel with are about 4 hours. So 4.5 hours. So they're intensives, if you like, but we putting them in really interesting spaces. We've got a first one coming up at the Lorimar Winery. We're doing it in a winery, so the gazebos and amongst the vines and all that stuff. And we're learning a sword fight from one of the early episodes in Line of Fire, and then Rite of Passage, and then I've got one in London coming. I've got one in Chicago coming up, and Chicago is going to be a dojo. So we're going to do more some of the dojo fight. It'll be something from that nature because the atmosphere around it is very much that. London, we're looking at a couple of exterior spaces more like palaces. So we might do more of a Renaissance type of sword fight in that. So you're going to get a different feel. And I've got one in Houston, and Houston is going to be, it looks like it'll be something maybe like Star Wars, for instance, where you're in the middle of battling the evil of the galaxy. But because there's so many different people, cosplayers or martial artists. I've had a lot of people through the classes I've done last year just as a test that wanted different things. And I guess the sword experience was able to sort of allow them to do what they wanted to do, which was either train some more, learn some other things, or find out a little bit more about what it's like to actually film a fight.
That sounds really fantastic, especially with the variation of it as well, and teaching it in the different sort of film styles that you can have. Because obviously there must be, I mean, how long have you actually been sword fighting? When did you start that?
Well, I'm guessing 25 years now. It's about 25 years that I've been doing it. And the thing is, I mean, it's like riding a bicycle. When you train, I mean, I trained extensively in swords, in different weapons and stuff. And I got taught by some very good people, and I worked with some very good people. And if you're smart, when you do that, you learn a lot and you retain it for your own knowledge. I worked with Bob Anderson, who was my first real teacher. I had one prior to that, but Bob was really my first teacher. He was the choreographer on the series, but he also did Star Wars, and he did the Highlander movies, and he did Princess Bride. Gosh, in the first night. I mean, he did so many different things. And I think what the sword experience is what he taught me from the very beginning, which is take a sword fight. Don't put a location, put a sword fight into a location, but build a sword fight around a location. So in other words, you experience what the sword fight, you using your environment to create your experience. So he was fantastic, and I think he was the first. And then obviously I had a lot of martial arts training with my Sifu Vernon Rieda in a lot of Asian martial arts, and that sort of changed the way I was fighting in Highlander. I had Korean and Japanese influences. A lot of different people I worked with and then there was Peter Diamond, who was another great. He was thousands of fights he choreographed. Another English stuntman who again has passed on now, but his was more gruesome and to the point. Game of Thrones fighting. So you got to get a different feel as to all the different types of fighting that you can get. And I was really lucky to, get it from some of the best people around.
No, that sounds really, really cool. I'm desperately trying to get my wife to let me come to the June one in London.
Well, it looks like we're going to do it. Well, again, we're really sort of. I want to put it somewhere that's easy for people to access, because there are some airports. You can fly into some place like Stansted or Luton for like £25.
Well, yeah, from anywhere.
From anywhere. So I want to put it somewhere close to that, because I've had a lot of requests from Wales, from Ireland, from Scotland. And if, people are so inclined to hop on a flight for one day, do the flight and hop back on again, and it only costs them 50 quid, then, it's worth it in a sense. So I want to make it accessible to as many people as I can, because after that I'm going to Stuttgart, and I've got a convention I'm doing in Stuttgart, but I'm also doing a sword experience in Stuttgart for the European fans. So same type of thing. I want to, and each one will be different. As I said, there'll be slightly different choreography, or it'll be in a different location. If the locations are similar, I might do the same choreography for different people.
Yeah.
But, I've noticed people get a lot from it, because it's a day out. They have a fun time doing it, learning the sword fight. And it's a real team building type of thing, which is where we're going to be taking it afterwards to companies to actually do team building exercises as what companies do for their vacation times or for their employees.
All right, that sounds fantastic. I'm not going to name the company I work for, but it's a big one, so I'll mention it to them. And get you down for that as well, because they do loads of team building stuff. So I think a lot of people will be interested in that.
The interesting thing is that when you do sword fighting, you have to really be in tune with what you're doing. It's not just your concentration can't go off to the left or the right, because then you get injured. You have to be really respectful of who you're working with, and you have to be respectful of what you're doing. In other words, what sword it is. And I think that happens. And I found people coming together. We did one at Microsoft with about 45 people from Microsoft, and they were all employees. And, I switched them around so that they're all working together, and eventually they start teaming up, per se. And it seems to be a really interesting way to watch people work things out together, because they have to, when they have the weapon in front of them.
Well, yeah, exactly. You don't want to mess up with that, do you?
No, not really. No.
Well, it's kind of similar. So I did pro wrestling for 2 years quite recently. I was a rookie in there for a couple of years, and it's very similar the way the choreographing, because you've got to be in tune with that other person. Because if you're not, you end up obviously you're not going to have your head sliced off, your arm sliced off with a sword, but it's still you still get very, very wrong. So yeah, I can see where the choreograph, where you have to be in sync with that person, especially if it's going to be like a film scene or a TV scene, because obviously in a real battle you don't care, but when it's for a TV, you really don't want your co-star just to drop down with a real head cut off. Highlander wasn't real for that.
Yeah, I mean, you got the thing. The issue also is if we use bokens, we won't use real swords just because the insurance problems on it. But still, the thing is that'll still hurt you if you get it. If you get whacked in the arm. And I found over the years finding so many different people that you have to really sort of understand that there's an adrenaline as well that happens as an actor. When you work as an actor, for instance, you create a role and a part, and you become that part and that role. Well, you can have as much anger and stuff in the fight itself, but you have to be controlled in that anger so that you're not slashing through and creating damage. I mean, numerous times I've had swords bend on me, break off, break my stitches in my finger and my face and stuff, because people were overzealous or didn't quite know what they were doing.
Right.
And that's problematic.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's where, like you say, serious accidents do happen.
Yeah.
Cool. No, it sounds great. It really does sound fantastic. You're selling it to me anyway, so I'm sure you're selling it to everybody else.
I'm not. I'm just telling you what it is. I just thought it was. I've not had. Everybody's kind of gone, oh, that sounds like a really cool idea. Nobody's really done it. And I don't think they have. I think, like anything, everything evolves, and the sword experience will evolve into a bunch of other things, I think, as well. I think it has the opportunity to do that. I just hope it has fun. And it's not a huge amount of my time, per se, to go and do it. It's an afternoon somewhere, so I can, I can actually go out and do that. Our idea right now is to do one event a month, and if it grows, great. If it doesn't, that's still okay. I'll have had fun, and hopefully people will have had the same amount of fun as I had.
That's excellent. I mean, you're going to Stuttgart as well. It's just popped up in my head. Obviously, all your castles around there and the old, you could do medieval type scenery.
Yeah, there's some amazing stuff. We actually have, because what we look for now is we're looking for ninjas, and those are the people that are around the country, around the areas we go to, that help us with finding a location, as well as they might have in ways to actually help us spread the word that we're coming to that area. And then there's added benefits of being a ninja, which is fun, and it's kind of trying to create our little army, per se, that allows us to do a smooth transition into whichever other area we go to. Because flying into some place, sometimes you don't know what is there, you don't know what the restaurants are, you don't know what the cool things are around there, and it's great give somebody an experience. I don't want to say, well, here's a hall, we're going to do this here and done. I want to say, well, there's this great park nearby, there's a restaurant, there's a free boat trip, there's, we're going to be taking this to a lot of different places, and these experiences are going to sort of grow around this concept.
No, it sounds really excellent. So obviously, I mean, I've seen a lot of feedback as well, but following the account on Twitter, which is Sword Experience, for those people who want to follow it. So get out there and follow it if I get all the latest updates. But there is a lot of positive feedback for you on the website. Me just tweeting out in the past day or two, it's really picked up, and there's a lot of people saying that, that what they've seen and stuff looks really, really good. So I think it's going to be a success. Would you offer more? Would you come back and do more? Obviously, you've got a certain amount of ones this year. And if it's a huge success, you want to plan on doing, I mean, you've touched on it before.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm really surprised. I mean, it always surprises me. I do conventions, around the US, and now, obviously I've doing one in Stuttgart. But it really still surprises me how popular Highlander was, and still is to a lot of people. There are still even young fans now suddenly finding it. It's dated in the sense that it is the clothes. You can tell it's the 90s.
Yeah.
It is, you can tell in the 90s. But with so many, the change in the industry, the change in the perception of what is cool in sci-fi or in a fantasy genre now has changed dramatically over the past 10, 15 years. So there are so many different people now. I was just actually watching now, because I have another film. I'm actually coming to England to do a teaser on a film that we're producing that I will be in, and it's I was looking at other teasers, and a lot of them are real sci-fi oriented, and what they do with them is just incredible now, and it's just changing the way people look at what a comic book or a sci-fi series is all about.
Well, definitely, yeah. I'm going to jump to one of the questions now, because it's a perfect time to place this from Kerry. By the way, Kerry Boyce and Luke Boyce, they're from Chicago. They're on Shatterglass Films, and they're huge fans. As soon as I mentioned it, they were just like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" They're massive fans of you. So if you want to give them a shout out, you can do.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. I'll see you guys in Chicago.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get them there. I think they're trying to get there too. Kerry's one of the questions is, if Highlander were on today, it would probably come with live tweeting, internet fandoms. And do you feel like Highlander could have been bigger than if it existed now and during this age than it had in the 90s, when it was a simpler time without the connections, without the internet? Or would you have preferred it, or with all the fan interaction?
I think it would have been huge. That's my feeling about it, because I mean, I know that when I traveled to different countries, I had a huge response. Russia, Romania, France, Spain. I mean, I went to so many different places, and that was just through, watching it on TV. And I'd said this to somebody. I said, especially with the conventions, the amount of people that would have been aware of it would have grown exponentially. And I think if it was set in today's age, I think it would have been much bigger than it actually was, because of the way we can share information today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you see a lot of the shows now, they do the live tweet, you know, as the episodes are going on, the actors are sitting on Twitter and they're talking as well with the fans. So
Right.
just, yeah, if Highlander had done that, I mean, we could get a resurgence of Highlander. We can start that right now. Get it back on the main networks, and you know we can do it again. But I agree with you. I think, you know, the internet has been a fantastic thing for the media, and obviously for, you know, for film and TV promotion. But you're right. I mean, even without that, Highlander was phenomenally successful in its, you know, in the 90s, and it still is everywhere I go. As soon as I mention to anybody who I'm talking to, everyone's like, "No way!" It's like, you know, immediately it goes back.
You know, it's funny because I was watching the last of American Idol's on now, and
Mm-hmm.
they did last week. They did a recap of how American Idol kind of evolved, and one of the things they did was picking up the cell phone and texting. You
Yeah.
know, they were like, nobody knew what texting was back in like the mid 2000s, early 2000s. They didn't know what texting was. But it suddenly blew up, and they had like, I think it was like 5 million texts in over the first few shows they did it. It was just ridiculous. The amount of coverage it was able to give them, such a phenomenal show that comes from Pop Idol, which was the
Mm-hmm.
English version. Which the funny thing is, a lot of great English shows end up being on American TV, and they're like, "Oh, it's an American show." No, it actually started in England,
Yeah.
such as The Office, which is another great show. You know,
Oh
which
yes.
I prefer the English version.
Ricky Gervais. Can't beat Ricky Gervais.
As well as An Idiot Abroad. I love that one too.
Oh, that's got to be one of the funniest things going, hasn't it? Carl
Yeah,
Pilkington. You watch, sorry, I trail away, but you watch him and you think, is it staged? But no.
No, he reminds me of a friend of mine.
Yeah, that's always good for a laugh. Pretty much
Yeah.
tears streaming down my face every time I watch him.
Yeah, well, Ricky Gervais and they do put him into situations which I think are hysterical.
Oh God, yeah. Lovely one I watched. It was on Train Through Siberia. that was a cracking
Through
one.
China, when he was going
China?
through China and bungee jumping, they made him try to bungee jump, I think, at least 3 or 4 times.
He's just such a, yeah, brilliant show, that one, anyway. As well as Highlander, anyway, I'm going to say you've also starred in other iconic shows. So you're not just an icon from there. You've been in Dark Shadows, War of the Worlds as well in the 90s. They're pretty big and long-lasting and big sci-fi shows as well. So, you know, how does it feel to be in such a mix of decent, good? I mean, it's not just those. Obviously, you've had a huge career, but I was just saying I'm picking these ones out. So how does it feel to be in that sort of climate and that sort of genre?
Well, it's weird because, you know, as I said to you before when I first started, that, you know, I picked up to become an actor. And what ends up happening is you become a product and you are put into certain things that people believe you are able to sell that product. And sometimes you then get pigeonholed in that genre because that's what your fans want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Prime example is Jim Carrey when he did, gosh, what was the serious one? Not beautiful. Monarch on the, was it Monarch on the Moon? Anyway, he did
Man on the Moon, wasn't it? Man on the Moon, where he did.
No, I've lost it now. But anyway, he went into a serious, and he was really good in it. He was really good. But fans weren't ready. They wanted to see the Jim Carrey that, you know, everybody knew.
Yeah.
And it's hard for actors sometimes because some actors are more, you know, they're not just that genre. And but that's what fans want to see them for. They want to see them do that stuff. So it's tough to get to do that. But yes, you're right. I've done a lot of different things. I did a cool film called The Heavy a few years ago with actually the director that's working with me, Marcus Warren, and I'll be working with him on another deal right now that we're producing. But you know, I like doing stuff just because the people I work with or the subject matter, you know, I just have fun working.
That's fair enough. I say you like get pigeonholed as well because someone who was on the Highlander films was obviously Sean Connery. But as much as I've seen him and as much as I admire him through everything he's done, for me, he always sticks out as Bond. So you are right. People will always remember you for a certain role.
Even Roger Moore. I mean, Roger's done.
Well,
so
yeah,
much
exactly.
Stuff. I mean, Roger, I know Roger because I actually happen to be the godfather to his grandson. So there's a little secret for you. His son is a very good dear friend of mine. Roger too. I mean, you think of Roger Moore as Bond or the Saint. I mean, there's really a couple of things you really remember them for. But his body of work is huge. I mean, nobody talks about UNICEF, which he's done for many, many years. But you know, it's what you get remembered for.
Well, exactly. And Christopher Lee as Dracula when he had a list of 500 plus films. Yeah. Well, to be fair, a lot of them were Dracula.
Christopher Lee. I mean, he was fantastic in Lord of the Rings. I actually worked with him. I worked with Christopher on the film The Heavy, which we filmed in England. God bless him. I mean, he's passed on now, but anybody would tell you Christopher telling you a story would take you about an hour, because he would, Christopher would tell you about a story, and you're like, okay, can I get to the point? No, but I loved him. But he was. I enjoyed it, but it was again, you're right. He was known as Dracula and that horror stuff. That's what you knew him for.
Oh yeah, definitely. I actually spoke to some guys on The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings who filmed with him, and they said the same. They actually flew out, and they just said that they would just sit there for the whole day as he was just churn off these stories.
Yeah, I know. He was funny.
Casually drop in that, yes, because when I spoke to J.R.R. Tolkien, so he dropped in that he knew him and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he worked with many people during his career.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, you do have some upcoming films as well, which I was going to say, whether you can talk about them or not. I mean, they're on IMDb, so I'm pretty sure you got like The Inferno by Dante and The Secrets of Emily Blair I've seen, and is it Egil, The Last Pagan?
Egil's not in production. The Secrets of Emily Blair is actually like a Carrie type of thing. I play a priest. See, very different. But they haven't released it yet. I'm not sure when they're going to release it. So they were supposed to release this year, and then I did another one called, it was supposed to be The Coming Storm, and then this is what happens sometimes when they do these smaller budgets movies. They tend to make them so that they get publicity of some sort. They called it Stormageddon, which is like Armageddon. I think that's how they're calling it now. So that's supposed to be coming out as well. So I've got those two coming up, but I spent a lot of time doing my peace fund. I also did Strike Back last year year before, I think it was. That came out.
Series.
Yeah, it was a great series. It was so funny because it's changed from how we used to shoot. Strike Back now, for instance, has a second unit that was probably as big as our first unit. So big that they had trucks and armor personnel and gun carriers and this person and stunt people, and I'm like, this is second unit, really? So it was really interesting to watch how it's developed. I mean, you've got Game of Thrones now. I mean, it's $10 million every week.
Yeah,
I mean,
phenomenal.
That's huge, and I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones. I actually saw the original script when it first came out. My manager at that point said, "Oh, you should see this," and I did, and I was like, "Yeah, can you get me on?" And I didn't really push it too hard because I would have loved to have been on that series, but it's a great series. It's beautifully shot, and creatively, I think it's iconic.
But yeah, I've got to admit, I'll hold my hand up. I'm probably one of the few who hasn't seen it all yet.
Really?
No, I just haven't got time. I know it sounds so sad, doesn't it? It's one of those I want to spend a lot of time to catch up and watch it and to make sure, because I think you have to I've tried the first few episodes, but then I run out of time and other things. You get family, and I just can't sit down. So I need to sit down and watch it all. But from what I've seen, there are some phenomenal scenes in it, and I think it's definitely groundbreaking in many ways for the TV show today.
Well, not a lot of people realize it comes from a book. I remember when we first the first season, and what's his name? He lost his head in it. I want to say Liam Neeson, not Liam Neeson. People are going to kill me for this. Sean Bean decapitated, and he got his head cut off. My wife and her friend sitting in there going, "Oh my God, do you think he knew when he signed on that they were going to kill his character off that quickly?" So we went, it's actually in the book,
Yeah.
So, but it is a shocker, and what they do is what we used to do, and I think every good TV show does it. They do things you just do not expect. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh my God, what? And you want to tune in to see what happens after that.
Yeah.
Walking Dead has that. I mean, I just saw the last episode of The Walking Dead this year, and I'm sitting there going, dear, what on earth is going to happen here? And you want to go see it again.
Well, definitely, yeah. I can't believe the negative reaction that's got. People have gone wild, as though a cliffhanger was just a brand new thing that The Walking Dead have introduced. It's been there as long as TV, but yeah.
That you want. Everybody's ticked off with it, but I guarantee you, everybody that's ticked off with it will be tuning in next year to see what exactly happened.
Oh yeah, exactly. The ratings will be through the roof in October for that.
Yeah, probably.
Cool. Now, before I move on to a couple of questions from people who have come in, you did mention the Peace Fund, and I want to talk to you about that as well, because I've seen that that's the charity that you're set up and run. Can you tell me about that as well?
Yeah, I started the Peace Fund in '97. So it's 18, 19 years old. Gosh, dear, I'm dating myself. Stands for Protect, Educate, Aid Children Everywhere. And it really has evolved into a organization where I've partnered with different non-profits around the world. We've worked with people in Cambodia, Thailand, Haiti, the United States. We partner with organizations everywhere, doing something currently right now with Wellspring Hope in Niger, West Africa, where we've also we built 2 wells for them a couple of years ago. We raised the money for that. We've got different things right now. Another program we have is the Los Angeles Unified School District, where we're actually taking education into schools by supplying through our partnership with Microsoft Microsoft Surfaces. But the thing is, for me, I kind of, over the years, I've seen so many different ways that people have been given money or resources and stuff. And I think there are a lot of great organizations out there. A lot of people don't know about them. So we started Peace Fund Radio 3.5 years ago. So Peace Fund Radio runs every Wednesday on 11 a.m. Los Angeles time.
Yeah.
It's on the internet, so you can hear it. But I picked up so many different celebrities coming in and so many different children's issues across the world that we talk about. And now what's happened with that is that it's kind of brought me into the Peace Fund becoming a hub for all these other organizations to talk about how they connect with people. And now we've started putting organizations together so they can actually go out and do work together, because they may have the same ideas. They might be dealing with water. One might be doing it in Niger, West Africa. Another one might be doing it in Northern California. So some of them, their funding is totally different, but their ideas are the same. And sometimes cross-platforming things, you can actually solve a lot of things by doing that. That's where the Peace Fund's kind of got into. We have our own programs, but we're really sort of into helping kids anywhere, pretty much. That's why it's Protect, Educate, Aid Children Everywhere.
That sounds really, really worthwhile. Well done for that, and kudos. That sounds like a really great project to run.
Another thing that I want to mention, and I think some of your listeners will understand this, is that back in 2004, 2003, when the tsunami came, there was a massive, especially from England and a lot of places around the world, massive support and donations given to people put out there. But eventually, what happened to it? And so to me, I sit there going, okay, we know this where some of it went, but in reality, I want people to know, okay, if you give us money, I want them to know how we spent it, what the reaction was, and how it works, because I think that makes people understand and get involved in it a lot more, because they're seeing how they've affected lives around the world. The peacefund.org, we are just about to launch our new site. I keep saying that. I've been saying that for about a year, but we've ran into some difficulties because we've got so much content now that putting all the places around, all the different categories in it's taken some time. But we have Peace Fund Radio, which you can find on the internet. You just type in Peace Fund Radio and it'll come up immediately at one of the top searches. We also have Celebs for Kids, which is one of our fundraising arms. So the Peace Fund really has a lot of stuff where we actually are bringing celebrities in, and we're giving different people different ways to actually raise money for causes that they believe in. Because one of the things we found in Peace Fund Radio is we deal with a lot of kids that have done incredible things, like a little girl raised $130,000 for her favorite to stop child slavery. Cool. She was 9 years old.
That's a hell of a lot for anyone, let alone.
Yeah. So she spent 1.5 years standing on the street corner, selling her lemonade, and raised that amount of money. I mean, we're talking about kids that do inspirational things. And I think people know about them. I think people need to, what I've really found is that people really start organizations, or they join an organization because a lot of the time, somehow, somewhere, it's touched them. Whatever it is, whether it is AIDS, whether it is autism, whether it is homelessness, somebody around them, something in their life has touched them to start that organization or join it. So I want to give people the opportunity to say, okay, there's a lot of organizations out there. Here they are. You can choose, and here's the information about them as well.
Cool. No, definitely worthwhile. I should be checking out that as well, subscribing to the radio. 11 o'clock your time, so that's 7 p.m. my time, so perfect timing.
Yeah, there you go. It's easy for you guys.
It is, yeah. We're not going to be sat in work like.
Just after work. Yeah, that's
Exactly, exactly. Nice thing to chill out to. I'll have a listen to that, definitely. Okay, moving on to. I've got 3 or 4 questions from people here before we wrap it all up. So back to Kerry again. I did throw hers in earlier. If we were all immortals and there can be only one, who alive should get the title today? This is a deep one.
who alive should get the title today. That would be a lot of killings. 7.5 billion, actually. Who alive? It's a tough question because where do you take it? Do you take it to the spiritual level? I mean, what do they have if they're the only one? Are they going? Is everybody else? If we're all immortal, then we're screwed because we're all dead at some point. If there are a bunch of immortals around, then that's different because then they're going to be servicing the humanity. So that's a different question. If it would be, I would pick somebody that would be able to enlighten people to stop them from behaving like or using religion or using an excuse to create havoc around other people and kill and maim and put their own points of view on other people. I would like somebody that would be able to educate people to stop that type of behavior.
Very, very good answer. I totally agree as well. It would be nice to have that. Wouldn't it be nice if all the human race could actually live in love, peace, and harmony?
Wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be perfect.
Unfortunately, we are creatures of greed.
We are.
The thing is, even though there is a great sentiment, somebody may start it. Eventually, somebody's going to twist it. That's the problem. If you could stop the twisting, we would live a much more peaceful nature. I don't think it would eradicate everything, but I think it would definitely make things different in our lives. I also think, we talk about, I mean, the state of the world right now, the state of things that are happening in England and Europe right now is very troubling because you have a lot of individuals that want to change things or create havoc, and we become so politically correct that sometimes we don't realize or we step away from the issue, and later on it's going to bite people in the backside. Because if you don't stand up and look at the issue right now and not say, well, I'm not being politically incorrect, then you're going to find a lot of changes that may change the entire structure, the fabric of the society you live in.
Yeah, definitely agree. I could go on all night talking about that kind of stuff. I think you're totally right. It is scary. There's a lot of people, like you say, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. I think that's the saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone said it somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it's just greed. Cool. So moving on, rather than so try and lighten the situation again, rather than go. Otherwise, I can go on all night. If you see my Facebook, you'll see why.
Yeah, right.
Tracy, how much training did you do for the sword fights? We kind of touched on it actually with the sword experience.
Well, yeah, I kind of touched on it. I touched on it, a little earlier. It's a lot. I did a lot, the bruises and the scars to prove it. But you need to. It's like anything. You have to train. People that have skill. There are people that are much more skilled than others, but people that don't train and have not as much skill will become skillful because they train in whatever it is.
Yeah. Exactly. How long did it take to film those kinds of scenes?
Depending on the thing, usually 4 to 5 hours would be like one action sequence. So if you can imagine, I did probably 3 a week per episode, and then there was all the action stuff. I was doing a lot of hours every week, on one thing or another.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of physical work in a week.
Yeah.
Nice. The last one is actually from This Week in Film podcast. Sent one through, and Tracy sent the same one as well. But it's what was the worst accident that you've had with a sword? You've said you've had your bruises, you've had your.
What's the worst accident I had with a sword? I don't know if it's a sword. I think it was being on the action thing. I landed on my head from above a staircase.
Ouch.
Which, I've also gone backwards on my head doing a stunt when I was doing the breed. That was. I mean, I've had my finger split open, stitches there. I've had stitches in my eye, across my eye. I've had it in the face. Every week the sword would break because, as I said, that one of the things you learn as you start handling swords is not to be beating them or what I call cutting through a person rather than stopping at your target, which makes the shortcut a lot lighter and faster too. So you really have to sort of adjust, and I think that's where you don't get as many injuries. But the injuries I've had were from unexpected things. I mean, actually, one of the ones that really split my head open once was I was directing it. Funny, funny enough. And these are the things you don't understand. It's why the sword experience actually is able to sort of teach people this. Is that yes, you've got your sword choreography, then you've got this the space that you're in to actually choreograph it. Then you've got the lights and everything else that comes with it, other people, etc. And those distractions have to be out of your eyesight because things can happen. And I was choreographing this fight, which was in the Lord Byron episode that I did, and he had two weapons. One that he was thrusting with the left that I parried, and then as I parried it, he spins with the right and cuts across that I then parry over my right eye. Well, as he went through, I lost him slightly in the lights behind him and missed the parry. Do the parry again, but by that time he's already turning. I didn't have the sword. He turned so quickly, he just cracked me right across my eye. And I mean, it just stitches. It bled like this, and then I couldn't have anesthetic because I was still filming, so I had to have stitches put in my eye. And if you look at that episode, you'll see in the fight at the end there, I was actually always kind of favoring the camera from one side because on the other side, I had stitches in my eye.
Lovely. Oh, I guess yes. I guess you couldn't have anesthetic because that'll hamper all your sword fighting for the future, wouldn't it?
Well, it's I mean, 2 days later we had to stop filming for a couple of days because my eye swelled up like a balloon and it was red and bloody because you damage all the nerve endings and the blood vessels in the side of the eye there, so that causes the eye to go red.
Lovely. I've actually talked. I say last one. It's not questions. I actually talked recently and made friends with Luke De Silva. He informed me quite happily that he and his brother tried to kill you off during the Black Tower episode back in '97.
If I had a list of people that tried to kill me off, I a lot of money. Quite a bunch of people tried doing that.
It's just one of his came when I told him about speaking to you. He goes, "Oh yeah, that we were in that episode." Awesome. That actually brings me to the end today. Obviously, your website for Sword Experience. That's www.swordexperience.com.
Yeah, you can go to theswordexperience.com or swordexperience.com. It'll still take you to the same place. That's we have our, as you said before, we've got our social media stuff that is really taking off now. On Facebook, it's Sword Experience. Anywhere, just Sword Experience or The Sword Experience is it'll come up. The logo's very distinctive. So my personal Facebook page is Adrian Paul and my Twitter is Adrian Paul 1. My regular stuff, which is all linked, but you'll find out everything I'm doing. I'm about to announce another show I'm about to do, a little different than what you used to, but it's another way to get in front of the TV cameras again.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time. Is there one last thing you'd like to say to the audience before I stop recording?
Thank you. I guess that's it,
Cool. Fair enough. Then I shall stop recording and end the podcast. Thank you very much.